I was meant to win. I am down and willing, so I will find a way. It took a minute, now it didn't happen right away. When it get hot in the kitchen, you decide to stay. That's how it winners made. Stick a fork in the hater on my dinner plate. I walk into the fire like it's just a bit of flames. I switch my style up, watch the money pile up. I'ma get rich with life.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Clydesdale Media Podcast, where we're featuring the athletes of the North American Semifinals. We're presented by Thick Boy. If you want the coolest apparel, sometimes inappropriate, but really funny, go to thickboy.fit. Check that out. They're a huge supporter of the program. And with that, I'd love to introduce, again, Stacy Lerum. Congratulations on semifinals.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. I was telling some of the other guests this week, like, it's so much fun, like, catching up with you guys year upon year upon year.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy that it's already been a year.
I know. So I don't know where to start. I'm going to go with you keep improving year over year.
Yeah. That's the plan. And it's been pretty exciting kind of to see my progress in a sport that keeps changing too. So it's definitely been fun.
And not only are you improving, but other people are, but according to the leaderboard, you seem to be improving at a greater rate than people around you.
Yeah. Obviously that's the plan. Like, you can only control what you are doing and kind of the work you're putting in and how you are, what your result is in each workout. But, I've made some changes this season to kind of try to ensure that I'm progressing in the areas where I have weaknesses. And I'm trying to kind of close those gaps and getting myself to be at a better spot on the leaderboard. And I think based on how things have been going this season, that things have been going pretty well.
So just to quantify that, because I know you're like a stats person, you like to evaluate the numbers.
Yeah.
When we first met you, like in 2022,
yep.
You were in your region 127th.
Yep.
And then last year 36th. And then this year 12th.
Yeah.
So those are major leaps.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it just has to do with my preparation for the season and just kind of my mentality going in. And then just kind of some of the things along the way that I have changed. So back in 2022, the plan wasn't necessarily to go individual. But I kind of did the workouts on a whim. I was on the outside looking in that year and I made it as a backfill. And then last season, definitely plan was to go individual. So tried my best and ended in 36th or 37th. I'm not sure what it was. But then after semifinals last year, I had been following Training Think Tank programming, which is kind of their general programming up until that point last year. And I was ready to make the change for a coach. And so I hired Perrin from Training Think Tank for individual programming. So that's what I've been working on this year. And so I've been with her. I worked with her prior to semifinals last year. So her and I had a really good relationship. And so I had asked her if she would take me on as an athlete. So we've been working together for almost a year. So that's where kind of that leap came from 36 to where I am now.
So just to clarify, you've been following Training Think Tank for a while.
Yep.
But it was just the general programming.
Yeah. So they have they call it Training Think Tank Compete. I think I picked them up in 2020 around COVID. So I've just been following their online programming, which obviously has been great. It's definitely set me up for success. But I, as an athlete, definitely have some big holes that I needed to fill. And so I needed a little bit more individualized attention. And so Perrin's been able to provide that for me.
And Perrin is still with Training Think Tank?
Yeah. Yeah. So she's with Training Think Tank. So
So
I'm still with them. Love them. They're great. Great training camp.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me because they are like they're kind of known as the thinkers in the space, and I know getting to know you over the last few years that kind of matches up with what you are.
Yeah, definitely they put out some great content, and they're really in kind of like the weeds of everything. And her and I have had some really good conversations as well. Like you said, I'm definitely more of a numbers-based person, more analytical. So what they value and what I value definitely align. So it's been a really good match. And even when I was on their more of the group programming, they were very open to questions. And if I had a question on something, or if you kind of want to know what the intention of like either a training block or a training piece was, they were very open to that. And I really liked that.
So that was one major change you've made. Any other like little tweaks you've made just to like sleep, nutrition, any of those types of things since last year?
Yeah, so I've really tried to do everything I can to make this season a success. So whether it be being more conscious of what I'm eating and how much I'm eating, to trying to go to bed a little bit earlier every night. I will be the first to say I'm definitely not perfect at any of those things, but just being more conscious. And I think my word of this season was just being like intention. Like, what is my intention for each day, for each time I walk into the gym? Because realistically, I don't have all day to dedicate to training, unfortunately. So every time I walk into the gym, I have to be intentional in what I'm doing. And I think just kind of that mindset has really helped me this season.
It's funny you say that because I've talked to a lot of athletes over the course of these semifinal interviews, especially this year, that work full time. And it's almost like for their mindset, they need to work full time and to become efficient with their training day. And that's how their mind likes it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that I love kind of my schedule. Like, I won't be the first to say that, but I do appreciate the fact that I do have a very limited amount of time in my day to train. But I do know that I have to train in that amount of time. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Like, you do become very efficient with the time that you have, but then sometimes other things take a back burner, whether it be some of my recovery isn't necessarily the greatest because I don't have the amount of time in between sessions, or maybe like I get to bed a little bit later. Kind of like the sleep thing is something that is an issue, just because you kind of are at work and then you train and then you have 1,000,001 things on your to-do list that you want to get done. And so it's just that balancing act. But I do agree that I do kind of thrive on staying busy. So I don't really know what I would do if I didn't have a job and have to work and kind of had all day to train. I think that would be a huge adjustment that I would have to get used to. I don't necessarily know if that would be a benefit.
Yeah, I talked to somebody this week. Gosh, they're all blurring together. Where they quit their job and they then realized they had way too much time. So they went back to work part-time as a consultant just to try to fill some of that gap.
Yeah. And I always joke with my husband about how, I want to quit my job. But I also, I love my job and I love my career, and I'm as passionate about my career as I am about CrossFit. And so for me personally, that just wouldn't be a life choice that I would want to make. And so I definitely complain about it to my husband, maybe more than I should, but it does provide me structure, and structure is something that I really appreciate and kind of need.
And we've talked a lot over the last few years. For listeners who aren't, who didn't hear your previous episodes, you have from an outsider's perspective, what seems to be a super cool job.
Yeah, I do have a super cool job. So I am a biomechanical engineer and I work for the Boston Red Sox. So I am fully remote, but I work with markerless motion capture data. So you can see where an individual is and how they move. And so from that information, you can get information on how their arms are bending and how fast they're moving. And so I analyze all the information for the Red Sox.
And I think it may have been off the air last year. We talked a little bit about, like, you hear about it a lot in pitching, but I think you were telling me it's every aspect of baseball.
Yeah. So right now they're really focusing on pitching and batting. But definitely this is more of a new technology. As the technology improves, they're going to want it for all the players on the field, but we're focusing on pitching and batting right now.
So this is a kind of a cool transition. Is last year at semis, you competed against Hannah Black.
Yes.
Did you know that she is a biomechanical engineer?
I did know that. And someone I work with actually went to college with her. So it's a small world.
Yeah. And her study at college was looking at Isabel with motion capture and showing how the body breaks down over the 30 reps of Isabel.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say? People who are in biomechanics are very cool.
Well, what I find cool too is last year at semis, there was this pack like in the middle teens with you and her and Emily White, who won an event at semis last year, but finished just outside of those game spots. What do people like you and them need to do to take that next step? Because you're winning events, you're hitting home runs.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me last year, I think that if you were to look at the programming and kind of my places on the leaderboard, I had some good finishes. I mean, I won an event. I did well in another one. I had some middle of the pack ones, but then I really, really did not do well on two events. And those were really dropped me down the leaderboard. And for me, that was just kind of a wake up call. Not that I didn't know kind of I had these weaknesses, but it was really a wake up call that I needed to kind of close some of these gaps. And for me, gymnastics are just something that does not come naturally to me. And so I know that I'm never going to be winning gymnastics events, but I needed to figure out a way to kind of close the gap between me and other people in those events. And so that is something that Perrin has really helped me with. And through Perrin and Training Think Tank, she partnered me up with Mia, who's also a coach at Training Think Tank. And all off season, I probably spent more than half of my training just on gymnastics drills, just positioning drills, breaking down each movement. And for me specifically, that's something that I needed to do to kind of close that gap and hopefully get me on the right side of the line this year.
So I don't know if you can see, but I pulled up our headline.
Yes.
From last year, where you won event 1.
Yep.
So you came out of the gates on fire.
Yeah. On paper, I mean, that is an event that I really, really like. I consider myself to be good at low skill grunt workouts. And that is a low skill grunt workout. Definitely wasn't expecting to win it. But I think that it just kind of, the cards kind of fell the right way. And luckily for me, at the event, maybe not necessarily good in training, our sled pulls at our gym are very, very hard. Our floor gets really, when it gets humid, it gets really sticky. And so when I was pulling that sled in practice, it was I couldn't even move it sometimes with the weight that I had on there. And so I think just kind of making that a little harder in training and then going onto the floor. And even though it was hard, and it felt easier for me just because of the circumstances before.
So I have two ways to go here, and hopefully I remember to go back to the other one. How much more comfortable do you feel today doing gymnastics moves than you did in Pasadena last year?
Yeah, so I definitely feel better. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's definitely, I'm going to put it in a strength category for me, but I feel more confident, which I think is important. And I also have realized or learned how to approach different workouts with gymnastics in them. So for me personally, if I look at a workout, I'm going to have a braking strategy for different movements that might look different than someone who's extremely efficient at the workout. So I have to look at something and say, this is what I can do to get me from A to B the fastest and stick to my plan. I am a very analytical person, but when I work out, I tend to kind of go in guns blazing and try and hold on. And that's just not the right method for me sometimes. And so confidence is there, but also kind of being smart at approaching things as well is something that I've learned.
So that brings me back to the next part of the question I wanted to ask. And that is, the events were released early. You got to get a good look at them, hopefully by today.
Yep.
This year, it seems like the workouts are more balanced across the board, where last year there was like a full gymnastics workout, a full strength workout. This year, it seems like they put a little bit of everything in every workout, except for maybe the snatch ladder.
Yeah. Definitely looking at this year's, they seem to be, I mean, I don't want to use the word more classic CrossFit, but other than the snatch workout, like you said, everything kind of has a little bit of everything, which I was very excited to see. I think that kind of plays a little bit more to my strengths. But yeah, I mean, the workouts got released and I really like them and I'm really excited to do them.
Is there one in particular you look at and you go, that's where I need to make some hay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the first one. So the running and the clean and jerk one, I think that kind of lands in my wheelhouse. I'm also pretty excited for the snatch ladder. And then just the second one as well. So the double unders with the front squats. But really all of them I have to look at and say, I need to do as best as I can in each one to set myself up to make it to the games.
So are you to a place yet where you look at an event and see the gymnastics element and you go, I'm excited to see where I'm at? Or do you need to get a little further for you to actually be excited about that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say that I look at a workout and be excited about gymnastics, but I am at a point now where I can look at a workout and not be discouraged by it or not be intimidated by the volume of gymnastics that's in there. I'm to a point where I can kind of turn off the emotion and just say, this is what I have to do. This is the way that I have to break it up for me to get my best result, which I think is a good place to be right now.
So building on that, does that, because you're less discouraged, does the converse become true that you are now more confident in your abilities going into an event like this?
Yeah, for sure. I think confidence, and I think if you listen to maybe my podcast from 2022 to last year to now, confidence in my abilities is something that has also kind of grown throughout these years. And I think that I have learned that my emotions to a workout or to a situation really can impact my result. And so this year was really a big stepping stone into kind of learning to trust myself and learning to have that confidence and kind of getting rid of some of that imposter syndrome of knowing that I do belong on the floor and that my abilities have shown that I do belong there. And yeah, I'm excited to step out on the floor this year and kind of show where I'm at.
That it's so cool to see that growth year upon year.
Yep.
And why I love this series that we do, because I mean, you guys work your asses off every year, and it's so cool for you to get a chance to talk about that, and to see and the growth in like not, and this is taking nothing away from you, the athlete, but like your Alex Kazans and your Ariel Lowens, and who have kind of established themselves, they don't see big jumps in growth, but you guys can. Like, I've watched you jump from a backfill to someone who has a real shot at a games ticket this year. And it's super fun for me.
Yeah. I'm glad it's fun for you, because it definitely is fun for me too. And I think that that's the cool thing about CrossFit as well, is that the sport is ever changing, and just some people can kind of continue and grow and keep adapting to that change. And I think just kind of the way that I approach the sport and my training, and like I said, the changes that I've made have helped me kind of grow along with the sport and kind of catapult me up to where I am. And yeah, I last year wouldn't have thought about talking about qualifying for the games. But this year, that's definitely my goal. And that's my intention as I step out on the floor at semis.
That's freaking awesome. And you get to do it in a location that is so iconic in the CrossFit world.
Yeah. It's funny that I joined CrossFit in 2019. So I didn't know anything about CrossFit before 2019. I kind of just didn't know about the sport. So it's definitely before I had interest in CrossFit, but just kind of looking back and watching the videos of what's going on in Carson. I mean, it's hard not to get chills looking at that, even though I wasn't watching it at the time. But yeah, I'm excited to compete there for sure.
Have you gone back and watched any of the documentaries?
Not yet. I've just watched some of the events, but definitely have to watch some documentaries as well. You know, I've tried to this season limit some of my CrossFit consumption, just CrossFit media consumption. Just for me, I feel like that was a mental headspace thing that I had to kind of eliminate this season, but I think I can watch a documentary.
Okay, well, that hurts my heart. But anyway,
I know, I always listened to your podcast when I would walk my dogs. But I just think that there was no need for me to consume that much content, especially just kind of like the, not necessarily like the news about CrossFit, but more of the drama side of CrossFit. It just wasn't doing me good emotionally and mentally.
I was going to dive in a little, and I'm just joking. Like, I understand you have to do what's best for you. So it wasn't a comparison thing. It was more of, you didn't want to get caught up in the drama.
little bit of both. I just think, that just, I have learned to kind of look at CrossFit and the events as like talking about the workouts for semifinals. Like whether or not I love them or I hate them, I have to do them. And so there's no need for me to really worry about when they were released or how they were released. Like at the end of the day, I have to do them. And so kind of listening to just CrossFit has drama and listening to that, it just wasn't doing me any good worrying about things that I couldn't control. Because what I can control is these are the workouts and I have to do them. And so I've just tried to eliminate just listening to a lot of the other chatter about the sport. And with that, though, you hear about what other athletes are doing. And at the end of the day, too, I can only do what I can with the time that I have. And so trying to compare to someone who maybe has a little bit more time or their training structure looks different just because of their needs also wasn't benefiting me.
So I'm going to take this down a weird road, but so, Training Think Tank, they're your group, right? They're your core, and they have their own media. Do you feel a need to have to take in some of that because they're the people who are kind of running what you do, or even that can get down into a rabbit hole you don't want to go right now?
Yeah, so they put out podcasts, and one of them, which I did listen to, was just kind of, it was before quarterfinals, and just kind of what your mental and emotional approach should be going into quarterfinals. So I'll listen to those, but just some of like the media about like training day recaps or recaps of quarterfinals, whether it's just kind of just like reviewing people's workouts, is just something that I don't feel like I need to consume right now. I mean, they put out a ton of great content, but unless I feel like it's something that will educate me or help benefit me for semis, I choose just not to listen to it.
So last drama question. Quarterfinals, all the penalties start coming out.
Yep.
There's no way to avoid that is going on, whether you're listening to media or not. What was going through your head as those are being levied?
Yeah. So the funny thing, though, is that during quarterfinals, I actually deleted Instagram during quarterfinals, and it was the best. I had no idea what anyone was doing. I had no idea about anything, and I feel like I had a ton of mental clarity. And so the leaderboard was released Monday night, and I saw where I was, and I was feeling pretty confident. And so, of course, I download Instagram back. And then Wednesday night on Instagram was when I found out all of the penalties were being assessed. And my video did not get reviewed until Friday morning. So I don't even know how many times I checked my email between Wednesday night and Friday morning. And so there's another, so actually at our gym, we have two other individuals who qualified for semifinals. And they were trying to plan hotels and flights. And I just told them, I was like, I don't even know if I'm going. Like, I can't book any of this. So I was very, very stressed. Not because I was concerned with my movement quality necessarily, but I was just concerned that so many people were getting penalized that it just seemed like they were scrutinizing that workout to a degree that maybe we haven't seen before. So fortunately, my workout came through and I was able to kind of have a sigh of relief. But for those 36 hours, it was miserable waiting.
Well, first, thank you for reloading Instagram, or I wouldn't have had a way to get in touch with you to invite you on. Second, I sent out a bunch of invites. I think I sent yours on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right. So I sent a bunch out, and then the penalties started coming Wednesday, and I had already booked. I hadn't booked you yet, but I had booked a bunch of people, and the people I booked started getting penalties and falling out of the top 40. And I was like, what am I going to do? And some of them I just said, hey, we're going to postpone. You're going through an appeal process, and I don't want you to talk on my show and have it affect your appeal. So we just kind of took a step back, but I've learned a very valuable lesson to not start fighting until the leaderboard's final.
Yeah, I think I responded to you after I had gotten my review for workout 1, which even then could have been premature too, right? Because at that point we didn't know what the rest of the review process was going to look like. But yes, I was very, not that I have a big Instagram presence anyways with CrossFit. I don't, just in general, I don't post a lot of stuff. But like our gym, yeah, I don't. Our gym on Monday, after the leaderboard was finalized, sent out a post saying that these are the semifinal qualifiers. And it just kind of felt like it was just bad luck. Like I didn't really repost anything. Like I didn't want to, at that point there wasn't even penalties coming out. But at that point I just didn't want to jinx anything. And then yeah, Wednesday came around and people were getting penalized. And so fortunately I made it through, but yeah, this year definitely looks a little different.
Yeah. I got a lot of responses that said, hey, I don't want to book till it's final because I don't want to jinx anything.
Yeah.
I bet you I got that response 7 times. And then you wrote me back. I didn't know you were validated because I can't see that stuff.
Right.
And then I was like, ooh, I shouldn't finally book her until I know for sure on Monday.
Well, yeah. And I mean, when I wrote you back, not all of my workouts had been validated. So, I mean, they could have gone through another workout and assessed penalties. So yeah, it was smart. There was a sigh of relief when I got my workout 1 score, but then I was still very, very nervous. I still had 2 scores that needed to be validated at that point. And I definitely did not breathe a sigh of relief until 3 and 4 got validated, which I think was on Sunday.
Yeah, it's funny. So the leaderboard goes final Monday night. I get a text from Emily Rolfe going, it's final. And I was like, well, I don't work for CrossFit. I just know what they posted. And she's like, they never validated my workout 4.
Yeah. So I did get all of my scores validated. I think my 3rd and 4th workout were validated Sunday morning within like 2 minutes of each other. So
yeah,
it is what it is, but
yeah, my guess is they didn't really look at 3 and 4 just to make sure kind of like people had videos and that they were legit and moved on.
That's kind of what I am thinking, but again, I have no idea. All I know is that I got those 4 green check marks, and at the end of the day, I was on the right side of the line. So,
yeah. Well, I could not be more excited for you, and I'm so glad you were able to come on again this year. I wish you all the luck in the world. I'm rooting for you to get your first ever games appearance.
Thank you. Are you coming to Carson?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't get approved. I still don't have it in writing. I just got a verbal approval on Monday, and flights have not been affordable at this late juncture. Yeah. So I'm going to keep looking, and if I can swing it somehow, I will. But this has been a weird season for me and my family anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So this just may be a year I have to kind of take a step back.
Yeah.
and then just get back into it next year. But I've never been to Carson. I've never been to the tennis stadium. I'd really love to go.
Yeah. Well, I hope if it works for you, you can make it. I'd definitely be excited to see you there. But yeah, definitely understand. But
So are you gonna delete your Instagram for the weekend?
maybe. I don't know. It was very nice. And not that like I said, I rarely post, but I just feel like I'm on it way too much. And it might be the way to go.
Well, the reason I ask is if I can't make it, we're still going to cover it from here. And we're going to be reaching out to people to ask them how their days went or how events went. And I'd love to be able to reach out to you, but I understand if you have to delete it.
You can reach out to me. Maybe I'll have my husband be my social media manager for the weekend.
Okay.
He can filter my content.
And you don't get your phone until
right.
Sunday evening.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds awesome. Well, Stacy, again, I wish you the best. Good luck in Carson. And thank you as always for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. And thank you for all the listeners. We will see everybody next time on the Clydesdale Media Podcast featuring the athletes of the North American Semifinals. Bye, guys.